Hi, this is Nathan from MCreator. This is going to be a quick tutorial on how to design blocks with MCreator. So a quick introduction into blocks. Blocks are essentially these cubes which make up the terrain of Minecraft. Now to design a block, we're going to need to create two different things. One is the texture, which are the pictures on the faces of each of the blocks. So these are like the textures that get rendered onto a block, and then we are going to make the block itself, which is considered a mod element. So first we're going to go to Tools, and then click on Draw Item Block Texture. Here we can quickly design our block, how it's going to look. So we're going to pick a color first, and we can also use these tools here. So this tool here is going to draw a rectangle, and we're going to draw a big rectangle over the entire surface. Then I'm going to create like this dirt looking texture. So I'm going to get a slightly darker color, and I'm going to use that with the pen, which adds in a single dot, and now I'm just going to run that around and then kind of just make this irregular texture, so it kind of looks like dirt. Cool. And I'm also going to add in a few little stones, so you know how in dirt it's not just brown. We've got a few grey patches in there. Cool. Okay, and that'll do. To save, we go up to the top left here, click save, and then select block, and we need to type in a name which will be the name of our texture. Just remember not to include any spaces. So I'm going to say this is our dirt texture. Dirt text. Okay. Now once we're done with that, if we want to create a new design as well, we can also hit delete. This will delete our work and we can start again. And in this way, I'm going to just make sort of like a rainbow block this time. So I'm going to start with red. I'm going to make these lines here. So notice how it's a bit of a pain to try and draw that every time. So what I'm going to use is this line tool here. Let me choose a different color. I'm going to choose orange this time. Maybe this slightly reddy orange. And then I'm going to go down. And again, that's still taking a bit of time, so I'm going to choose the rectangle icon. So that's probably not a good example. Let's try it again, but with a slightly lighter orange. That's better. Now I'm going to save this texture again, and I'm going to call this the rainbow block, or rainbow texture. Cool. And now we can exit back out, and this will take us back to our main workspace. Now as you can see, nothing has changed, except if we head over into textures, we're going to see two new texture designs here. Now going over to elements, hit this plus icon to create a new element, and this is going to contain the texture and contain all the information about how we want our block to work. So this first block is just going to be a surprise TNT. So something which will blow up even though it looks like dirt. So someone might be just walking around, they think they can mine it, and then it, boom. And we press OK. Now we first need to add on the textures. So if we hit one of these boxes here, we'll then click on the first dirt texture and press select. That will cover all of the faces. If we click next, this name up here is going to be the name of the block inside the game. So this one can actually have spaces in it. Now I'm going to leave all the other settings. Feel free to play around with this in your own time. Just click next, then next again, next again. And now this is where we're going to come back later on to add in our procedure. But right now we don't have any procedures, so we're just going to click next. Let's actually generate this in our world. We're not going to really see this in this point of time, but your students may try it out and they'll be able to see for themselves how it works. And just remember to hit generate in world. And we can also increase the frequency so that they will be able to find their blocks a lot easier. Click next, and hey, there we go. We've got our surprise TNT. Let's also create a procedure now for it. So we briefly touched on that just before, but just to go over again, a procedure is like an event. So when something happens to the block, it's going to activate this event, and we'll see it in action very soon. So let's create an explosion. So I'm going to call this explosion and hit OK. Now, it's just taking a little while to load. So the first thing here is the event trigger. Now this is just the start of the event. So when the event starts, we will then proceed down just like in normal code. Now we have a few different options on our left hand side here, but for now we're just going to go with world management, and we're going to go down to explode. We're going to grab explode and just pop it on the bottom there, just like in Scratch. So this is just drag and drop coding. And we can also adjust the power. So if we want to make a really powerful explosion, we can increase that to 10. And now we're done. Simple as that. So click next down the bottom, and you'll see your new procedure. Now to attach it to your previous mod element, double click on surprise TNT and click next, 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 next until you get back to this procedures page here. And once you're here, we're going to say when the block is destroyed by a player, so when they're mining it, we're going to add on an explosion. And simple as that. We click next, next, and we're out. And now before we test it out, I'm also going to create a second block with a different procedure. And this one is going to be when the block is destroyed by an explosion, it's going to drop some diamonds and maybe some gold and emeralds. So let's first make the procedure this time. And how are we going to do that? Well, I'm going to call this treasure, just treasure, the treasure event, or treasure procedure. And then I'm going to go down here. I'm going to grab this world management. Here we are, spawn gem. Now, I could just spawn one gem, and I could just spawn in some diamonds. So if I can just find a diamond, and then hit OK. Now, I can also right click, and then hit duplicate. I'm going to get a second one I can add on the bottom, and just repeat it for emeralds and gold. Get emeralds, and then gold. Cool. Now, it's going to be a bit boring if it's just one of each. So, what can we do to make more of them? Well, because this is code, we can have loops. Now, if you go down here to logic and loops, we can grab repeat a certain number of times. Now I can just pop this in here and drag these elements inside. In here, we're going to need a number. So let's go to math, and we're going to see this first one allows us to add numbers. So we're just going to pop that in there and say we're going to make 10 of each. Awesome. Now if we hit enter, we see 10 times, and now we're going to hit next. We're going to see our new procedure. Now let's create our second block. So we're going to create the surprise block, or surprise treasure, and hit OK. I'm going to hit this blue one here. So the blue one fills all the faces with the same texture. Now if I hit this texture here and select it, we're going to see it appear in all the faces. And hit next. Again, we give it a name here. I'm going to call it surprise treasure. Again, this name can have spaces in it. Then click next, next, next. Now this time we want to only to drop this treasure when exploded. Now we just hit on the drop down menu and click on treasure. Then hit next. I'm going to change the levels that it can spawn on and also have it generate in the world. Now this is a fairly low frequency, so I'm going to leave it like that and hit next. Alright, now let's get cracking. So if we have a look in our console, we're going to see Gradle is doing some things here, and it should finish any moment now. So basically what Gradle's doing is preparing the Java code, which will be interpreted by the compilation, so when we're starting to build our mod itself. So if we hit play, it's going to put together all of the mods into a single world mod, which can be applied to our worlds. Now, just going to let it boot up. We might come back shortly. So create world. Now I'm going to again call this sandbox. For our tests, I'm going to make sure we're in creative mode. Then go to more options and make it super flat. This makes things really easy to test then. Now make sure that you also have allow cheats, and then we're going to press done and create new world. Cool. One thing that we can also do is go to options and change difficulty to peaceful. That way we're not disturbed by any mobs. Now let's head out somewhere away from this village so we don't explode it. Let's grab our items. So search item, we called it surprise. There we are. I'm just going to grab one of each. We'll see what they do. So let's start with the boring one. So this on its own, if I break it, does nothing. Now if I throw down the surprise TNT, if you remember, this is going to explode once I break it. Now, let's try that again, but this time we're going to put down our rainbow block and our TNT right next to it, and we're going to see that this should drop some treasure. And there you are. Let's have a look down there. As you can see, we got 10 diamonds, 10 emeralds, and 10 gold. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you soon.